Okay, hi, I'm Emily Rader. I'm in 9th grade.
I'm Jill Jordan, and I'm also in 9th grade.
I'm Claire Ford, and I'm also in 9th grade.
I'm Megan Hilsing, and I'm also a freshman.
Okay, so our presentation is on the history of paper. And I know you guys have probably had a long day, and you're thinking about dessert at the end of the day. So we're going to make this simple and sweet, just like the dessert you're going to eat later. So as Craig and Javier did a great job on their presentation on the swords, and it's a lot different from paper, but paper has its own unique twist, too, with society in today's world. Paper has played a bigger role than many of you might think. Like, just think about how many times you see paper and use paper every day. From seeing the label on a water bottle, for instance, or copying a file at work. You see paper like almost every minute of your life, it seems like. And so paper has really changed our minds in the way we think. And it's made us advance as a society, and it's led us to where we are today as far as technology goes. So basically, we're going to ask you to make sure you stay on the right path. What is paper? And paper is a substance. Basically, it's made from fibrous materials. It can be written on, and it's then basically, as long as anything that can be written on, it's considered paper. This could be a rock. It could be the paper, the 8 by 11-inch paper that you print with. That's what we consider paper. But paper started with our complex brains, our complex minds. But just because our minds started there, it went back and back into history, from the creation of the world to the creation of the universe, all the way back to the Big Bang, 13.7 billion years ago. But we aren't going to go back quite that far. We're just going to go back to when people used stone tablets. And so the early years of paper were when people used stone tablets about 3,000 years ago. And these stone tablets worked out for that time because there were new civilizations just starting to begin. And these were called agrarian civilizations because they arose from the civilizations of like crop fields, and they started experimenting with the land, and that's why they have that name, the agriculture. And the stone tablets, they used those when they had to make laws and they had to enforce rules about the community. They had to have something written and stable and concrete to put everything on. So that was really ideal for the time. But there is an example of the first writing. That's the oldest one believed to be found, and it was found in Samarkand, which is in Asia, and about 2,000 years after that was found, that's where the Indus civilization was at. So it's a long, long time ago. And Jill is going to talk to you a little bit more about the further expansion of paper.
So as Emily said, most people believe that the first form of paper was made in Egypt, but the first kind of modern paper, like the paper we use today, was actually made in 105 AD in China. And the invention is credited to Cylon. And over here is an image of Cylon. So what he did was he would take the bark of a mulberry tree and he macerated it. So basically what that means is that he took the bark and he put it in a bucket of water to soften it, and he left it in there until all the fibers became separate. And then he would take some kind of wooden tool and he would like beat the substance with the wooden tool. Then he would take the liquid and pour it over a rag to drain out all the water, and then he would let it sit and dry, and it took quite a few days to do this. And then after it dried, he found out that it was actually like you could write on it. And around the time when this was going on, most people were still using stones and animal skins and things like that to write on. And it wasn't until collective learning became a bigger aspect of human life that the idea of our modern paper started to spread all throughout the world. So now we have a video of the homemade paper that we made that we would like to show you. And this is actually the paper that we made, so I'm going to leave it up here and you guys can take a look at it during presentations.
And we did this process 2 times. That was the second time. The first time was kind of a fail. But the second time we did it another time and it worked out, and that's the second copy of it. So.
There are many different ways to make paper and different ways that people have made paper throughout time, and now Claire is going to talk about some of the different ways.
Okay, so basically early paper had to have some sort of fibrous material in it. One example of this fibrous material is cloth. The Italians, they actually fermented the cloth, and that's what they used to make their paper. Another example is bamboo. The Chinese also used bamboo to make their paper. Another characteristic is it was usually handmade in a very long, arduous process. Like Jill talked about, Cylon, it took him close to 3 or 4 days to create his paper. Paper back then was only available to the rich and the educated, basically because it was a brand new breakthrough product and everybody wanted it. It was in high demand, therefore it was very expensive. Paper nowadays is made with more chemical-rich components like sodium, oxygen, and anthracite. Basically, these chemicals keep the paper from deteriorating and they keep it strong. This paper nowadays is made in factory by machines. There's basically one simple recipe for creating paper nowadays. It's wood, water, and energy. First, we get the wood from trees. The trees are chopped down. There are logs. The logs are rinsed off and cleaned of any impurities. The logs are then chipped down into wood chips. The wood chips are soaked, and then they are pounded by machines to create pulp. The pulp is put on wires, and the wires, they sit to dry for about 2 hours. The wires then go through really hot, heated, like big heated cylinders. The heat from the cylinders makes the fibers in the pulp connect and weave together to make paper. And as the pulp comes out, it's paper. And it depends what kind of paper you're making, whether it's just like 8 by 11 paper, which they did nothing to, or if it was like newspaper, they would take it to another machine and they'd make it opaque so you could actually read it. And nowadays, paper is cheap and available to everyone. You might be wondering why or how paper was able to be invented or how it spread so quickly. Well, the answer is collective learning. As defined by onlocationeducation.com, collective learning is the view that the human species has a unique capacity to accumulate and share complex knowledge and to transmit this knowledge from one generation to another. So basically, that's saying, I learned something, I pass it on to you, you pass it on to him, and it goes on down the line from generation to generation. Collective learning is what allows humans to be what we are today. Without collective learning, we'd be living thousands and thousands of years in the past. Paper is one of the most significant causes for collective learning. Paper has allowed us to store information and pass it down from generation to generation easily. Without paper, we would have had to transmit information by word of mouth, and humans are pretty smart, so that'd be really hard. Collective learning is basically what makes us who we are today. Without paper, we'd be living thousands and thousands of years in the past. You might be wondering about what's going to happen to paper thousands and thousands of years into the future. Well, Megan's going to tell us about that.
Acceleration. Acceleration is the rate of increase in an item. As we look back through the history of paper, we see how paper has accelerated. As we said earlier, paper originated in China and slowly spread throughout the world. One way paper spread throughout the world was by the Silk Road. The Silk Road connected the world for the first time. The Silk Road was not just one road, but a series of water and landways that spread from China to Europe. The Chinese, the Muslims, and the Syrian traders sold thin sheets of paper to travelers along this route. Paper has led people to share ideas on a more global level. After the Silk Road, paper was demanded in all parts of the world. As a result of this, paper mills were set up. The first paper mill was set up in Samarkand and was water-powered and was able to produce scrolls and books. After that, paper mills were set up in Baghdad, Damascus, Syria, Morocco, and Sicily. These power mills also created books and writings, and these mills also inspired new factories to be built. Paper has increased human intelligence. Famous scientists like Galileo and Copernicus could not have spread their ideas without the use of paper. The Pythagorean theorem and Newton's law of physics became globally known because of paper. Because paper is more globally known and easily accessible, literacy rates have increased throughout the world. More than half of the world's countries have a literacy rate of 92% or higher. Paper has also increased acceleration in collective learning. There are over 10,000 paper mills in the world today, and the U.S. alone contains 500 of these mills. Technology. Without paper today, our society may not be in the condition it is today. As our economy and society continues to accelerate, we need to think about the future. The future of paper depends on humans. As with growing technology, such as computers, we are seeing less of handheld books. Students are starting to write their papers on online documents. People are reading their newspapers on online websites, and they're starting to read books on e-books such as Nooks and Kindles. As this picture shows, handheld books are decreasing as online books are increasing. As these books are decreasing, humans need to turn to recycling in order to save the future of paper and the environment. 34 million tons of paper are thrown away each year, and this is raising increase in humans. Making choices to recycle will be a huge part of the paper products and of the paper industry's future. So by recycling more, humans may have a future for paper products. Thank you for watching our slideshow. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Yes.
So what do you see paper being used for in the future if most of our books and stuff become online?
Well, the question was if what would paper be used for in the future if everything is turning to online, correct? Basically, the future right now, as Megan told us, a lot of the books are transferring to online, but that's only that's like a very small amount of all the paper that's in our world today. Like plastic is composed of some paper, and obviously we use plastic a lot in our lives, and that's probably going to be in the future for a while, but still we need to recycle plastic and make sure it stays with us for as long as it can. And not even plastic, there's so many other paper elements that'll probably be with us. It's just more probably focusing on like the books and things that can be electronically easier for people.
You young ladies have read books, as all of us old timers have, okay? And I'm sure that you've also read books online. You've done papers in the old-fashioned way on a piece of paper, and you've done papers online. Which do you personally prefer and why?
Well, I personally prefer doing things online and stuff because I've just been known for misplacing things or losing stuff. So if I have it on a computer, if I have something on a computer, it's more likely that I wouldn't lose it.
I personally I like writing papers on the computer, but when it comes to reading books, I love to read books as books, just because it's just not the same on Kindle or online.
Those of you that answer in that way, or this could be to all of, do you sometimes find a relationship you have with that book that, it's in your hands, you're paging through, you can dog-ear it if you want, as long as it's not a school book, or being dog eared or whatever. Do you find a more personal connection with a handheld book?
I did say definitely. I think that I prefer books to the internet, except for when it comes to typing things. But when I have a book in my hands, I feel like I'm holding the story instead of the computer's holding the story. It's just different. It's a different feeling. And I think when you're reading the book and it's with you, it's just a different feeling you get of the book and where you're at. I like it better.
Is it when, do you prefer doing papers online because you can always go to that infamous spell check? Or if you do it on a hard copy, you have to be a little more particular? Or is it just the feel you kids are so used to having that keyboard? I mean, there was even a thing on the news, I think just yesterday, that a lot of high schools, kids don't know how to type on a keyboard anymore because they're so used to doing this.
Well, there have been articles recently about how students' writing is probably diminishing throughout the world, and especially like cursive, as you guys were probably all taught in grade school. It's not really common anymore. I mean, print is, but usually even that, people don't turn in print copies of something. It's always typed. So that's definitely changed.
And that's why most teachers prefer
Yeah.
typed, because we can actually
We can read it better.
I like to type just because it's faster. And I'm a pretty slow writer, so I just type because it's a lot faster.
I'll ask you guys a technical question about the word papyrus, P-A-P-Y-R-U-S. What do you know about that?
They used it in Egypt because it was actually a plant. It grew around Egypt, and I guess that's how it was.
It was used to write on. What role did paper play in the history of religion, do you think, especially in the West?
Well, it probably played a huge role. I mean, in writing the Bible, with all the monks writing the Bibles and stuff, that wouldn't be there without the invention of paper. We probably wouldn't even have the Gospels today if there wasn't an invention of paper, because it wasn't transferred on from each generation.
Yeah.
Well, I just have like a general question. How long did it take you like to do all this?
Well, the actual paper that our PowerPoint is based on, we worked on like all the research and stuff for like a couple of months. But as far as actually making like this presentation, it only took like a few class periods.
And all many extras in these books.
How long, and I don't know if you just explained there, but how long did it take to make that? You said it was your second try. How long did it take you? It reminded me of a Viva or a Bounty or whatever.
And why did the first one fail? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. And just how long did it take you to do that?
Well, this took basically the longest part is letting the water sit in the tub, and that takes about 30 to 45 minutes. But after that, I mean, the whole process only takes about half an hour, and then you let a day for it to dry. So the first time we messed up was because we were rinsing it, as you noticed, we were rinsing it like horizontally like this. So we thought to get more water out, it'd be good to squeeze it.
Oh.
So you got to be
It's not very smart.
It's called patience. Patience.
I love the colors of your PowerPoint.
Any more questions?
I just have a comment.
Okay.
I just want to say, I'm in the office supply business, and we ship out probably 1,000 cartons of copy paper a day. And I will never work another day without thinking of the four of you. And the next time I meet with a paper supplier, I'm going to try to knock their socks off with some knowledge on paper. So I appreciate it.
You can hand that out to the
They don't want the
That's
history
right.
of paper, John. They just want the paper.
That's right.
I thought it was interesting, there was a commonality between your presentation and the previous presentation. I was wondering if you knew what it was.
I do. I was going to say something.
Paper.
Hmm?
There's no scissors.
No? What was the first paper? A rock. What was the first sword? Rock. It's
Rock, paper,
interesting.
scissors.
And also, you use the Silk Road to transfer from the knowledge to us. And in the past presentation before that, they were telling us about how the beginning with the sword, it led us to, I forget the word that they used, led us to that knowledge of humanity and how we have progressed. Yes, because of that.
That's
Yeah,
sure.
it was it. So that's just awesome. Great, great.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.